Hello, hello, hello. You know what's up, right? You know what we're going to talk about. Oh, stop it. Oh, the earthquake, the earthquake. Ugh. I'm trying to set up my phone because I know some people on Facebook might want to chat. I tell you, I told somebody today, I said, somebody's not happy. Do you know, I just read that there is a volcano that erupted somewhere in Colombia. These poor people. And I'm sitting here thinking it could be us. We may not be too far out because, and I tell you why I say that. Oh, what is going on here? Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. That was terrible. I'm still trying to get this. So the last numbers, I just, I have the TV. I turned the volume off. They said now the death toll is up to 137. You know it's going to increase. And 6,000, over 6,000 in Venezuela. What is going on? Anyway, I was sitting here working, on my computer. I won't tell you what I had to do before I came on. And then this person said, Maggie, you need to do a video about the earthquake and your experience. Well, thank you to those of you who are here. Welcome. It's Monday, August the 10th. I'm Maggie. I'm here in Panama City, Panama. And I thank you for your attention. This is just a little informational kumbaya so we can kind of highlight that. So I am safe, thank God, and I am on the 38th floor of a building that is very narrow and straight up. 3 years ago, when I was here for the first 6 months of my stay in 2023, I was sitting and I was in a building that was not as strong as this one. And I was sitting at the dining room table. It was a small apartment. We have 2 bedroom? Yeah, it was 2 bedroom. And I was sitting at my desk, no, at the table, dining room table, and then the table did this, and I was like, "What is that?" It did not last long, and of course, as soon as you feel something weird, you just go on your WhatsApp, right? Because somebody's gonna post something about it, and then somebody will say, "Oh my God, did you feel that?" That was my first foray into life here in Panama, even though Panama is kind of in between Costa Rica to the west and Colombia to the east. And after Panama begins South America because we are in Central America. I think there are, is it 5 or 7 countries in, I think 7 in Central America. But what we are told about earthquakes, just like there is no direct hit for hurricanes in Panama, which is one of the reasons a lot of people choose Panama over other countries, because I've met maybe a couple of sisters, it's just mayhem over there. People just, um, the country of Panama not being in the path of the hurricane belt is one of the reasons that some people choose to retire here or to come live here. Because, I'm Caribbean. I've lived through hurricane. It is not pleasant. I was in Florida one year and we had four hurricanes come through one after the other. It is a scary thing. And of course, in Florida or wherever else, I could have been in the west part of the country where people have tornadoes. We had a few tornadoes, but nothing as like in Oklahoma and some of these other places because we don't have shelters for tornadoes because Florida is very porous. We have no way to go down. If we go down, we have to get our life jacket and our gear. So they tell me after the first earthquake that even though we do not get a direct hit of any earthquakes, but because they are very common in Costa Rica and Colombia, that we are snuck in between them, that sometimes we feel the rumbles, right? So what I felt was an earthquake that was in Colombia at the time. And sometimes they'll say it's from Costa Rica. And people who live in Costa Rica will tell you that it's like being in California. They say they have rumbles almost every day. And the people who are used to it, it doesn't really bother them. But people like us who are not used to earthquakes, it is jarring because we are in these high buildings. In this Panama City, after the earthquake in uh, Venezuela, I said, if we ever have something like that happen here, it's not going to be pretty. I was talking to an Uber driver about that, lamenting the disaster and the fate of the people. And when there's an earthquake, I'm saying, because I went to Haiti after the earthquake. When you think about, things like water, food, toilet access, it's a mess. Okay. So that's what I think about when I think of that many people displaced. Yes, you can have the chef go in there and hand out food. What do you do for bathing? If you're a woman, a young woman, what do you do with your menstrual cycle? How do you relieve yourself? I mean, I ask the questions and it's horrible. It's horrible. So when you download an app on your phone, because after the Venezuela earthquake, I kept asking if Panama has an alert system for people like they do in those tornado prone states in the US where they start blaring the horn and everybody finds their little shelter underground, which we don't have. And I was told, no, we do not have that here in Panama. But what we would have, if you have an Android phone, apparently some people in Venezuela where, hola Eve, um, from people who had like Android, there is something in their phone that would start going off if there is an earthquake in your area. But in the news not too long ago, I heard that the government here is working with Google to establish some kind of a national alert system. So, not that would help much. I don't know that you would have time to run. Someone like me, where would I run to? From the 30th floor. You know what I'm saying? You can know, but I don't think that's going to save you time. You just won't have time because when it hits, it hits. And when the alert went off in Venezuela, people were running. But if you were on a high floor, I mean, you know what I mean? You can't run, you can't hide. So I had not felt anything since that time in 2023. But keep in mind, that's why I'm not a history buff. but I need to know what's going on. I am not one of those people who's gonna say, "Oh, la 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 la," I don't want to hear the news because it's so bad. I don't want to know what's going on. I want to know what's going on. I am not going to sit here and ingest the news for hours. But I don't want to be surprised. Oh, you didn't know that? No, because I'm responsible for a group. And even if I wasn't, I need to know. And a lot of time people would say, Maggie, have you heard that? Yes, I heard. I've heard. Now, I don't share every piece of news in my WhatsApp group because there is a sense I don't want to um what's the word? I don't want to just post really bad things, just kind of get people all worked up over things that may not affect us directly. You know what I mean? So I may ingest a lot of information, but I'm very careful as to which information. Abundance now. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Yes, I am safe. Thank you. I think in Panama, I haven't heard of any structural damage, and I'm going to go over that in a second. But so I need to know what's going on. The news that I remember hearing a few years back is that the scientists have projected, and you've heard that, like a major, it's like, they're kind of testing all the lines on the ground, which, why anybody would want to do that? It's like the people who like to look at binoculars and looking at what Mars and all do. I'm like, I'm not interested in that. But they have predicted a major underwater disturbance because a lot of earthquake happen on the ground. That's when you have the tsunamis. And I'm not an expert, so if I say anything off, just correct me, please, kindly. But they have projected that there's going to be, hola Diane, there's going to be a major earthquake along the California lines. Now, I remember for years I would not even travel to California because I was so scared. And I'm like, I don't want to get into an earthquake. I remember being in New York. I was working as a nurse and the floor moved. I didn't know what it was until family started calling. Oh my God, is my husband okay? I'm like, what? Oh, we just had an earthquake. I'm like, oh, that's what it was, right? So we get earthquake. Not in Florida. We haven't felt earthquake, but we've had earthquakes in places where we were not expecting them to be. So this big earthquake, Greta, no way. Where are you, sis? She's traveling. Where are you logging in from? You are too much. So they are projecting that along the California coast. And in fact, I read they said that earthquake is going to reshape the coastline. And what happens when you have these major earthquakes from under the water, under the sea? Yes, you could have uh, areas just taken over, and I think that's what they're talking about. And they've had some movies about that. Where you see the whole something, the coastline would look totally different. Things that disappeared. I remember being in Chile in the 90s, and they took me on a boat ride. And then my friend, who was my host, said, "Oh, yeah, we used to have an island over here. We had an earthquake, it disappeared. That's another place that is earthquake prone." And for the longest time, I didn't want to visit, but I took my chances and I went twice and I came back. I remember sitting in the hotel one day and the little bedside table was shaking. My water was, I'm like, what in the world is that? So I called and I'm like, why is my table shaking? He's like, oh, we get those all the time. So it was like no biggie. Like if you talk to somebody from California, that's what they said. The ladies who are here say, oh, yeah, I've lived through so many earthquakes. It's okay. I mean, it looks scary, when your roof is going to cave. And I saw these people there in Colombia. They're out there. First of all, if you can get out, it's probably better, I'm saying. But sometimes you've seen how the ground opens and swallows cars. I don't know what to tell you. But that big earthquake that they are projecting, oh, okay, is going to reshape the coastline of California. Is predicted. It's been a few years. It's like, when you study the Bible, they talk about the second coming of Christ, and you're like, oh, they've been talking about that since I was a child. Even though right now, earlier, I was sitting there thinking, I remember reading a lot about the great, what do they call that? The 7 year tribulation. I said, I don't know. I need to go back and check. I think we've just entered that because this is just too crazy. But the one that they predicted, yeah, that's how you stir a cup. Hey, Tiffany, I saw your post this morning. It's like my first earthquake in Panama. Listen, I should have brought my wine because we need to just kind of chill and just talk about this, have our kumbaya moment because if it's going to happen, let's be happy. Let's go out happy, right? But what I wanted to say is that Greta is not even in this area. Greta is traveling. So they're saying that any country that is along the Pacific line is at risk. And where are we? Yeah, I'm looking at the Pacific right there. So I am in the path of whatever. That big earthquake in Venezuela, that was an area that was along the beach. Okay? I haven't looked at the geography for that little town in Colombia. You feel welcome to Panama now. Yes, it's like when you go to college and you've been hazed, right? But they are saying any country. So if you look at the map of South America, listen, we are like, and we're not that big. This is the thing. Panama is very narrow. Where you go to Venezuela, they have landmass. We don't. But it doesn't matter about the landmass. It's about the proximity to the Pacific Ocean where the dirty deeds is being done. And where did we choose to move, Tiffany? Right here. I don't think anybody thought about that when we're trying to do our scouting trips and we were looking at Panama. And then this morning, they were showing the same thing in the Philippines. People were in the streets screaming because there was an earthquake. Listen, remember when the earthquake happened in Venezuela? I think they had 3 earthquakes that day. Venezuela, Japan, and California. I keep saying somebody's not happy because the earth is just, it's hot, it's doing all kinds of crazy things. So while we are lamenting, we have a lot of Venezuelan people here, and the mayor and the people who have organizations or charities were very, very hands-on. And everybody will tell you that Panama is a very generous country, right? I mean, there were collection sites everywhere, not just in the city, everywhere. And the mayor took leadership and, shipping things over. And we had a whole rescue team go with the dogs. And you know what's always amazing after a disaster? First week or two, and then nothing. I haven't seen anything about Venezuela in the news. Have you? No. But you have thousands of people displaced. The misery. How does life get back to normal? In fact, there is an insurance plan I'm looking at. It's still a work in progress. One of the companies I'm looking at is in Caracas, in Venezuela. And I'm like, are they still in business? How do you sign up with a company like that with their country in such shambles? So now this morning, you go to sleep as always. On Monday mornings, I have my exercise class at 8. So I always set up my alarm on my phone for 7:30. The alarm went off at 7:30. And usually I'm like, did I get enough sleep? Because I go to bed late looking at things on my phone. And sometimes I will set another alarm for 7:45 so I can have the 15 minutes to get myself ready and get started. But I was trying to decide that, and then I feel like a little something, something. I'm like, what's that? And then the bed was like, and I remember that table that kind of moved. It did. This one didn't sway. It wasn't a sway. It was a dun 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 dun. And I'm like, oh my God, this is an earthquake. And I tell the ladies in my group, I said the first thing out of my, that I thought about is like, I need to go put a bra on just in case I need to evacuate. Oh my God. And another sister said, well, I sleep in the, you know what? And I'm like, oh my God, if you have to, as an emergency, you have to run. I do have my emergency bag, but my hair will be a hot mess. I need to have a little something to cover my hair and at least put something on so I'm not shaking all over the place. Oh my God, that was so funny. That's the first thing that came to mind. I'm like, oh, so I jumped out of bed. It was still kind of, and then I'm going to the bathroom, getting myself together, and then it stopped. So I woke up at 7:30. Somebody said it started at 7:34. It couldn't have been because I woke up at 7:30 and I felt it like within seconds. So it must have started around 7:29 or 7:30. It doesn't matter. But the first time I felt it in 2023, it was like a very fleeting thing. This one stayed on for quite a few seconds. Somebody said 40 seconds. 40 seconds of your building swaying and shaking, that's long enough, okay? Now, when I was talking to this Uber driver, I get a lot of my information from my Uber drivers. I remember when I was visiting Panama, as soon as I would get in, I would say, okay, ¿qué está pasando? Oh, and Tiffany, your Spanish thing this morning, bravo, sis. You did good. And to film it, that's ballsy. That was good. But anyway, Nana, are you okay? Nana is in Colombia. The earthquake was way southwest. Okay, so you're okay. Oh, excellent. Well, Nana, is not looking good for Cali. There is a girl there called, she's a YouTuber, young psychologist. She was in Peru, then she went to Japan. I mean, she's traveling. And then she just settled in Cali. They say Cali was hurt bad. And I'm trying to see if she posted anything. Nothing. We know Stephanie Perry is in Bogota. Bogota is affected, but Stephanie Perry, I believe, is in Medellin for Exodus Summit that is coming. One sister here flew to Colombia because they were going to start the Exodus Summit thing. And I think Charlotte Van Horn just flew out this morning. Said the airport was shut for like a short time, and then. But you know what? An earthquake is just devastating because people's psyche. I don't care how calm and collected you are. When the earth, I don't like to fly. I fly because I have to. I don't like to be on a boat because I like to be on firm land. But when the land is no longer firm, where do you go? Even the sea is not safe because the things can be coming from underground, and that's what causes all those tsunamis. So as soon as I felt that and I got myself together, I just put on my phone. I did download an app, but that app didn't give me any warning. It was usually, there is a women's group here that is huge, and they're always putting stuff on there. And that's, they had been I think I kind of logged on maybe at 7:40, 7:45, and there was already a long stream of, yeah, I felt it. And everybody said they felt it, except some sisters said they were taking a walk and they didn't feel it because it wasn't strong enough. But in Panama, the area that is the most susceptible to the rumbling from your country, Nana, are to the west of us. No, actually, you from to the east, Costa Rica to the west. So a lot of times we have had 4.5, 5-point earthquake in the Chiriquí area, David and those Puerto Amueres, those areas closer to Costa Rica. So we always have, they always have drills, especially with the kids and the schools to know what to do in case of an earthquake. I think a few times they had one in those areas where they have had some building cracks and damages, but again, nothing big enough. Because when I heard 6.4, and I'm like, okay, 6.4, that's why we felt it. But 7.2, 7.6, that's big. And if you go back to the history of Panama, the last major earthquake that we had was in the early 20th century, 1915. You can go look it up. And they said that one was pretty bad. But what I'm saying right now, Venezuela was affected, Colombia, sisters Jewel in Ecuador felt it was a strong shake. So that we're sharing the love here, okay? And Costa Rica is used to this earthquake. It's like California. But I haven't studied Costa Rica to see if they had a major one that caused a lot of damage. But I know Colombia gets them. So I don't believe that we are sheltered from a nice one because it's just that the waters are warming up. Things are happening underground in the waters. And then did you hear that there is a volcano that erupted in Colombia too? Just today, just one more thing for them to worry about. But they didn't say it caused the lava, caused any damage or anything like that. I'm like, oh my God. And remember, El Nino that is predicted to be really bad for us this time of year, all the way to November. They're saying the weather patterns are going to be strong and cause a lot of damage. And it's not just rain, it's anything in the atmosphere. And I think I personally put earthquake in the same group, right? So we're going to have more frequent rumblings. And over here, they call them temblor if it's not a huge earthquake, and then terremoto if it's a big one. So this morning, they call this one here temblor. But people did evacuate, get out of the office. They do Mexico. Mexico hasn't had one in a while, but Mexico now is in North America. So I wouldn't put it past whoever's upset with us. And, we are just such nice people that I think the elements are just kind of mad at us. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel that personally, that I don't think we are immune to having a major earthquake. And I mentioned that to the Uber driver. And I said, I am really worried that with so many high rises, and that's the thing in our city, that it would be catastrophic, right? And then he said, oh, no, señora, no se preocupe. He said, the building codes here in Panama are strong. And I said, okay, but we have a lot of older buildings. My building probably, I think it was built in 2014, which means it's about 10 to 12 years old. How strong is it? But we have a lot of older buildings. And this is the same thing as sometimes when we have a gas explosion in some of the buildings that use gas, and things are not tightened correctly, and you have when fugo the gas, they say, like a gas sipping out, and then after a while it just, and people have died. Okay. So I just sent a note to the ladies in my group and I said, and again, I don't try to alarm people. You east of Medellin, Nana, that's great. Yeah. Well, I think somebody asked where in Panama. What earthquake? Oh, come on, M. Thomas. We had an earthquake today. Are you here in Panama? I think people felt it from Chiriquí to the beach areas, San Carlos, the city. We felt it. Costa del Este felt it. Um, in Coronado, they felt it. So I'm not sure where you were. Again, I think depending on what you were doing, you may have missed it because it was only like 40 seconds. So one sister said, I was in the metro. Of course, she's not going to feel it. If you were walking on solid ground, you probably weren't going to feel it. But if you're in a building, yes, we felt it. The beds shook, and some people took videos showing, their light fixtures moving. Yeah, yeah. You didn't feel a thing. So where are you, Thomas? Where are you in the city? But so I sent a message to my ladies and I said, I don't want to be the alarmist, and I'm not. I'm the most chill person under pressure, but I like to be ready, right? We have gone through emergency procedures in our group, telling our sisters, and I don't mind sharing that with you guys. I'm from Florida. We always, every single year, we have to be hurricane ready, right? Having canned food, dry food, water, having, candles and flashlight. And we even ended up having like a shortwave radio for news, right? And I remember the year that we had the fourth earthquakes, I never lost my cell phone, which is was unusual. But when I went to South Africa, one of the things that they had told us to do is to get a solar powered charger that it's got like three different cable that you could charge different things. And because in South Africa and in Panama, the sun is abundant and it's free, unless we're having a really bad a bad storm or whatever, then I put it outside, on the patio, let it charge up, and then it can charge your phone if you needed to. And I tell the ladies we have like to have an emergency bag. And in that bag, you have a change of clothes, you got shoes, underwear, toiletries, right? If you take um, medications for something important like diabetes or whatever, that you have a few days worth of your medications. I'm a nurse and I used to own a home care company, and every single year we used to have like 300 patients. So my patients were all old individuals. So we used to, whenever we opened the case, we had to do their emergency classification, whether level one, two, or three. We had people on dialysis. So we had to make sure everybody had their plans in place that we had, so that if they, with a hurricane, you have a little warning. That's better than an earthquake, right? So we would register people to go to different types of what did they used to call those? Shelters, right? You have shelters where you can just go and you bring maybe one of those roll mats, and then you could just stay there, and then sometimes they feed you. But then when you get to the level three, those are the people who needed oxygen. And really, we had nurses who volunteered to volunteer in those shelters. And then we had the patients who were on dialysis or needed, it had a trach and they needed to have their oxygen. And I was a supervisor at a facility in the middle of a hurricane, Maria. Remember Maria? Mm-hmm. And I had young men with trachs and on ventilators that I had to call 911 to organize. I'm telling you, it's terrifying. So we don't have all that level of preparation here. But as single older women, some of my sisters have mobility issues, right? And most of us are in high rises, right? So getting your emergency bag under ready. We talk about having a folder with all your information. You don't need to be a John Doe, even if, God forbid, something crumbles, but then they'll be able to see who you are. Or I guess the reception would tell them who you are. So you have a list of your medication, your medical condition, your local doctor, your name, your cedular number, maybe a copy of your passport, copy of your residency card in that folder inside your emergency bag. And then, a few days worth of your medications that you need, copy of your credit card, because you go to the hospital, tarjeta. You have to give the tarjeta so they take care of you until they can contact your insurance plan if you have an insurance plan. And also, the other thing we ask people to have is have some cash. Have some cash on hand, because if you have an earthquake, the lines are broken, you may not have electricity. Ooh, can you imagine that in this heat that we have? No electricity. And we would all have a party at the pool, I guess, or we'd go into the ocean, because it would not be sustainable with no AC and no electricity. Oh my God, what a nightmare that would be. So I just send them a note. I'm like, make sure you beef up your emergency plan that you can have yourself on the ready. And the form that we call emergency form for us, we have a copy in our folder, and then you're going to have a copy on the door. You know how when I was a nurse manager, all my patients who were do not resuscitate, and the state of Florida would ask that you have a copy of that order on yellow paper, so that if somebody called 911 to come, and when the EMS paramedics came, and if they see that form on your door, they knew not to do compression and try to keep you alive, regardless. But we don't have that. But for us, we just want to have our emergency information, right? Because in these high rises, the likelihood that outside of an earthquake, that you may have an episode, an emergency, that someone might find you in 2 or 3 days. And that's why I tell the sisters, you got to wrap your mind around that, because I think this happened since I've been here a couple of times to a couple of people, and we didn't find them in time. I'm okay with that. Trust me. I tell people the only thing I worry about is if I fall and break something, and then you're going to be in pain. I think that's the worst thing. But I remember even in the States, they would find my patients, for days, because we weren't with them 24/7. This is one of the, I don't want to say risks, but of being older and living alone. And yes, we have the chat. Yes, we say, hey, good morning, how you doing? But that's it. I could say good morning to you at 8 o'clock in the morning. At 8:30, I go in the shower and I slip it in my head, and I could be there for a day or two before somebody finds me. And I have to be okay with that. San Francisco felt it. Yes, they showed on the news in the US of a whole building collapsing. Here in Panama? No. Yes, the buildings are collapsing in Colombia right now. Yes, people are screaming. Oh, no, 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 no. The number is up to 137. I have the TV in front of me right now. And it's going to increase, unfortunately. Cali is devastated. Oh my God, Nana. That girl, I think her channel is Travel with Claire. Have you heard of her? I was trying to find her channel. I keep going on those channels. I keep going on the channel to see if they posted something, right? But then I'm like, they may not have access to the internet to be able to post anything. Yes, we are okay, thank God. But again, as I say, we're living vicariously. We don't know what could happen. And tremors and aftershocks could still happen. And sometimes the aftershocks are worse. And but what I'm saying is the purpose of me coming on, first of all, to tell you I'm okay, that Panama has fared fairly well because a 6.4 is not as devastating as a 7 point something. And the one that we had here, 100 and some years ago, it was a 7 something. It was a higher number. And yeah, so that's where we at. I don't think we are in the clear. I do think that whatever happens, and I'm looking at there, they're showing, rain and deluge and people being rescued, I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. The phenomenon, is it here in Panama? We we're in rainy season right now. Rainy season in Panama is May through like November, early December. It's been very, off and on. I know there was one day that it rained all day, but usually it's not like that. And sometimes we will have, I know that, we've had some overnight really strong storms and we haven't had one of those in a while. But it's just very weird. And when it rains a lot in Panama, and I tell people the infrastructure is fragile. This is my way of saying anything can happen, especially in the comarcas. The comarcas, those are the territories of the indigenous people. And a lot of time they're not close to any services, right? They're like way deep in the interior. So when there is water, it was raining nonstop for weeks in Bocas del Toro, surrounded by water. It's archipelago, it's got lots of little islands, and there was inundations everywhere. And the not company, emergency entity here, Cineproc. It's like our what do you call these people that rescue you at sea? Not the Red Cross. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. But they're forever rescuing people uh, in those rivers that just kind of take over. We've lost some children trying to cross to go to school or whatever. The waters get crazy. So places like Boquete would have inundations and mudslides, and food and crops would be lost. So, and even here in the city, if it rains for like hours, we have floodings. We have floodings. So when I say the infrastructure is fragile, that's what I mean. If we had a tsunami here, it would be catastrophic. I'll tell you that. Now, I am up on the 30th floor, so whatever would be coming from the ocean, I think I'd be okay. But if you cut off, no electric, elevators don't work. I'm on the 30th floor. I think somebody posted somewhere. There was someone when the earthquake came, they say he ran down 20 some flights to get into the streets. I'm like, oh my God. I remember climbing up 24 flights to go get something from a sister when her building elevators were out and I was traveling. So people are like, "Oh my God!" I said, "Yeah." I did 2 floors, and I would take a break, and I would fan myself. So it took me a little while, but I did it. I did it. Oh God, yeah, it's more than 50 people. I watched Nomadic Doctress on YouTube, and is she in Cali also? Okay, she's safe. Good. But talked about the surrounding and everyone assisting each other. That's good. And that's the thing. Even, I'm watching them now. People would put their gloves on and start crawling and yeah, they get together. But how else are you going to you survive something like that? I mean, we would do the same thing. So first I would be calling on my sister, making sure they're okay. and then they're calling their sisters or whoever they're connected to, and because the shock of something like that, sometimes you get people end up with strokes and heart attacks because the shock is a lot for their system if they're fragile. Hmm. All is well in Panama so far, as much as I know. I watch the news. That's the thing I do. I watch the news here. They talked about it. They talked about how people were scared, and because it's not something that we used to so much in the city. If you're in Chiriquí, yes, because that happens a lot more often. People just came out. And here in Panama also, I think early in the year, like January or February, they do a emergency drill. They do emergency drill where the government, all the EMS personnel, and the bomberos, which are your firefighters, and then they go in different areas and they mimic like un temblor, which is like we had today, and they mimic like fire and some kind of what do you call that? Chemical disaster, and then yeah, they do it for days, right? But of course, we're not involved in that. And again, the infrastructure is fragile. It's not like if you had a disaster, they would have enough emergency personnel. I don't know. In Florida, I know every time I renew my nursing license, they would ask me, would you be willing to be a volunteer in case of a disaster? And you had an option to say yes or no. And then they'll send your name to your local board. And then if there was an emergency, they would send you a message saying you're being deployed, kind of like I was thinking the Coast Guard. That's what I was thinking earlier, but we have Cineproc here. Um, so even when we have, it's windy, the Cineproc, which is the Coast Guard type people, and they are like lifeguards, and they have the little board, and then they would go out and rescue people. Because if the wind was strong enough and you were in a little rickety boat, some boats have capsized and they have to go rescue people. And sometimes somebody dies. The other day, I think it was also, places like Veraguas and certain of the provinces would be, underwater, and they showed on TV this young man. There was water was just coming down an area, and he had a big old F-150 type looking truck, and they told him no. They told him not to go through, and that's something we tell you. If the water is this high, you have a car. Do not go in. You don't know what's underneath there. And he went in, and he got taken over. Yep, died right there. So it's Yaman, Yasmin. Hola, Yasmin. Geraldine. Hola. Oh my God. Any other questions, you guys? I'm currently in Colombia, and it was scary this morning. Where in Colombia are you, Deborah? Because apparently, can you tell me if the area that is most affected was along the beach, the water? That would be interesting to know. I don't know where. I have to look and see where Cali is in relation to the Pacific Ocean. I can look that up. Oh my gosh. So I told my family I'm okay, but who knows? Cali, Colombia. Let me see the map. But I think the epicenter wasn't in Cali, it was somewhere else. Yeah, Cali is, of course, right underneath Panama. Yep, yep. It's close to the ocean. Oh my gosh. Wow. And so was Venezuela, the Pacific Ocean. Venezuela was like around the Caribbean Sea, but the town, that's what the Uber driver was telling me. He said, yes, Panama has strict building codes, and the architect engineers have to do a lot of studies before they approve constructions, of, because that's, we keep going up, of a high rise. And eastern side, Juan in Sabaneta. Okay, okay. But I'm looking at the map here. It looks like Cali is on the shore of the Pacific Ocean, close. Okay. But what he said to me, that's what he said. I had no knowledge of anything like that. He said that area where Venezuela had their earthquake, he said, these people know stuff. I don't. He said they had done some studies years ago to say that that area was not really that steady and not to build too high. And they did, he said. He said. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. Interesting. Cali was hit really hard as well, and some other cities. And you know that Stephanie Perry has moved to Bogota. And I think Bogota also got hit, but she's not home now as far as I know. She's in Medellin. Medellin, they say, wasn't affected too much. And I know, Nana, you're not too far from Medellin, right? Yeah. But I'm just sitting here thinking, if something were to happen here, as I said, I know some of our buildings, even if it swayed, it would rumble, may have a few cracks, it probably would stay. But when you're on the 30th floor, you don't know what's happening on floor 39 and up to the 64. So that's where it'd be coming down, right? And we even talk in the chat where you would go. I have these huge windows looking over the water. So, of course, just like they tell you in a hurricane, stay away from the windows. So I would have to come to go in, and I said the only place I could go would be in my bathroom. And I have a big tub. I said, well, maybe I need to keep my emergency stuff in the tub, with the wine and a glass. So that if I don't have time, I can just jump in. In Florida, we used to put mattresses over our head. In my house, where my house is now, the only place that was safe was in my closet. I had windows everywhere. So, oh my gosh. Buenas noches, Maggie. Hola, Maria. So glad to hear your smile after today. I'm still waiting to hear my friend who's visiting her family in Peru. No, Peru's fine. Yeah, no. We felt it in Peru, Ecuador, Panama, but we did not get the damage. The damage is centered in Colombia. Yeah. It's funny too. I was reading, somebody put, I'm not up on TikTok, but sometimes you'll see a TikTok post on Instagram. And then this two girls were like, oh, it was yesterday. Oh, we're going to see our families in Colombia. Everybody's saying, Godspeed, do this, do this. And I'm like, can you imagine? You leave the US and you're going to visit your family. And on your first night, you wake up the next day and boom, an earthquake. That's a no bueno. That's a no bueno. But this is also a reminder that life is so fleeting, right? That as much as mankind thinks that they have everything under control, they could just oppress and have all these billions, we have no control over nature. That is the boss of us. That is the boss of us, right? When you have these disasters, and of course, if you have money, you can get your helicopter, transfer yourself from here to there. Yes, you can do that. But it should really make you think that we really are not in control of things. We can only do so much. And I think it also should get us to get inside ourselves and have more compassion, more love, right? But no, we go in the opposite direction. And I don't know. I think sometimes when you talk about karma, I think, but now it's like karma is everywhere. It's like the whole earth is warm and things are crazy and unsteady. The weather is not happy. It's just doing all this stuff, and we are in it through November. And they said October, November are going to be the worst months. This is August. 6,000 people losing their life in an earthquake? That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. But anyway, and that's what I wanted to say. Just get your emergency plan in place. We should not panic. A lot of things are outside of our control. Make sure we can stay connected with one another. Sometimes the towers continue working even in the midst of disasters, but if not, I don't even know how we would get official notifications if our phones don't work. And I say, make sure everything is okay with you and your loved one. So if you need to call someone to say some kind words, to say, and I love you, I forgive you, whatever, do it. Do it. Because we just don't know. Things happen so quickly. I mean, I wish something would happen when I'm asleep. Don't get me wrong. That would be the ideal thing for me. But, and look at the new president of Colombia, poor man. He just got on the job. And that woman in Venezuela, after everything that, ooh, they were showing something dropping. As she had just, getting started too, and then to deal with that in Venezuela, can you imagine the scale of the destruction and people? Whew. As I said, what do you do with water, sewer, basic human needs, food? That should give you pause. Yes. That happened to me when I first went to California to visit my brother. I had a dream that the place was shaking. My brother told me that there was an overnight. It wasn't a dream, was it? 6,000 in Venezuela. That's the number I heard last. Somebody said, not in Colombia. No, you can use a radio to get news. Yeah, you'd have to get one of those portable batteries. But I don't listen to the radio here. I mean, in Florida, I did out on the station, but I don't know any radio stations here. And which station would give you the news? It would just be chatter, like a talk radio. Ooh, what was that? Ooh, it was like something happened on my screen. All right, guys. Anything else you want to ask? Yeah, I mean, wow, look at that building. Ooh. And people are going to be inside those buildings. That is, do you remember in Venezuela where they showed a family of four? I think it was after a week. They found them laid down side by side. Mom, dad, and two daughters, young adults. And those are the bodies that they were able to find. I remember when that building went down in South Florida, it was a building that housed a lot of retirees. There were several people they never found. You couldn't even have closure to say goodbye. Those are things that can happen, ladies, right? These are things that are totally outside of your control. and you have no preparation for what might happen and how you would handle it, right? So you kind of have to have your psyche ready for that. And like this pastor said, live every day in the light of eternity, that you don't know whether you get to see another day. That's what I said. Say the I love yous, say the I forgive you, I miss you, whatever. Try to repair the relationships. I'm talking to people who telling me, oh, I haven't spoken to my son in 20 years. And I'm like, oof, how do you, I don't even know how you do that. That is hard. And I know some of these children are rotten. I do. I do. But maybe you find a way to get the communication going. And yes, some people are toxic. You need to stay away from them. You know that. I know that. But when you're on your deathbed, how many people say, oh, I wish I had said this to him, or I wish. Don't wait. Don't wait. All those countries like Ecuador, Peru are on the ring of fire. Yes, they are prone to have earthquake. Yeah, I think I told you all the way down to Chile. Chile gets a lot of earthquakes, and they act like Californians. It's like, yeah, it's no biggie. But I think you have to get to that point because I remember when I went to California the first time, I took a tour of LA, and this young man who was an aspiring actor, he was our guide, he was talking. And, it took me a long time. And I was going on a retreat because I was on the board of a hospital. And I said, when was the last time you had an earthquake? He said, oh, we had one last night. And he was just like, and I was like, oh my God. But I had the best time. I was in La Jolla, beautiful place. And then when I returned, I had to go to San Diego, and nothing happened while I was there. But you've seen those pictures of the highways opening and cars. Ooh, no bueno. Those and people even here in California, in Colombia, they were out in the streets because that's what you do. You don't want to stay in the building collapses, but then the ground can also open and swallow you in. And you should have seen, I didn't think about that. They made like like a chain, and they hung on to each other, and they were like supporting each other in the streets while everything was shaking. And this other person was, I don't think it was a tree, she was hugging something, but the way they just kind of hung on to each other, and I was like, oh, okay, so I know what to do if I'm down in the street. They didn't feel anything. Well, that's good. I feel that is why a certain individual should not send something to crash on the moon. I don't know. Sometimes we disturb some things, right, that are not meant to be disturbed. We have to give people grace, just like God gives us grace. Yeah, we know that intellectually, right? But in practice, do we do it? Especially if they've hurt you. It's really hard to, especially when you don't deserve it, right? Isn't it harder that you've been good to someone and then they turn around and slap you? That's a tough one, right? Like you have children who turn on you. That hurts. That hurts. I know even with my kids, they'll do things. And I think when I got a bit older, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go in my closet. That's what I had to tell my kids. I'm going in my closet. I'm going to do what I can. I'm not going to give you advice because I have poured into you what I should have during your 18, 20 years. And then once I release you, you make your decisions, whether you do it to me or whoever. I said, remember that every decision has consequences. I am not going to bail you out. You make your bed, you're going to lie in it. But I'm gonna be in my closet praying that there's gonna be a breakthrough, that God's gonna open your eyes and you're gonna see life for what it is. And that's why your kids probably hated your guts when they were young adults. And then as they got slapped around a couple of times by life, then they come back and they are the nicest people, the most thankful people, right? So you can't, even though they were bad, they were doing bad things. I don't think people, well, yeah, some people are bad. I think they're bad. I used to say everybody is good, but no, some people are rotten to the core. Yes. As I've gotten older, I realize some people are just bad. They're just bad DNA. But your children that you've given birth to, I'm always going to be hopeful to the end that they're going to turn around. My job is to stay in my closet, be open for whenever they decide that I'm not the enemy. And then that's the hard part, forgive and save the relationship. Like yesterday, I was reading something this lady was talking about. Her husband, she's married, I guess. Yes, she's married. Her husband asked her to plug his phone because it needed charging. So she was plugging the phone in and a message came on. And when she looked at it, the person put like an emoji, love, or whatever. Well, it's her husband who's sending her husband messages with a love heart emoji. And I guess she was able to open the phone and found a whole slew of messages that had been with this person for years. Okay. And she's talking about how she read every message and felt like her heart was blah, 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 blah. She confronted him. He did not lie, did not deny it, just said, I was wrong. I'm sorry. And somehow she wrote, I don't like to read long posts because after the second paragraph, I click off because I don't have that kind of patience. Whatever you want to say it in the first two sentences, otherwise I'm gone. For some reason, I read through this, but I knew where she was going with that. She's like, oh, we went to therapy, and I gave him like ultimatum that he's gonna stop seeing her. We're going to therapy. His phone is gonna be open so she can look at it. And finally, she's like, well, they're forgiving each other. And when you read something like that, the fun part is reading the comments, right? The majority of the comments were like, "You so dummy. What would have happened if you didn't see that message? You would have still been doing the thing." You know what I'm saying? So forgiving is one thing. Staying in a toxic relationship is a whole different ballgame. Whether it's a mate, whether it's adult children, and that's why some people talk about boundaries, right? You can forgive someone, but I'm not going to give you an opportunity to keep doing the same mess to me. Mm-mm. No, no. I don't think that's what forgiveness means, right? You got to protect yourself, your psyche. So you can repair the relationship, but it's going to be a different relationship, and they don't have to be right here, right? To keep messing around because some people are going they love their mess, right? And if you're not a mess person, you want to stay away. So you got to, and I think that's what therapy does for a lot of people, right? I don't think therapy means, oh yeah, you have to forgive him, right? I mean, personally, I don't know how I can trust someone who I know was, betraying me for that long. I don't think I could. I know me. So, but I know I don't answer. I don't respond to those things whenever I see those posts. Sometimes somebody would say something, and I was like, I'm feeling hot under the collar, and I start typing something to respond, and I'm like, no, no, Maggie, you don't need to get involved. You don't need to engage. Nope. And I delete. Yes, I don't. They showed a video of people walking by an apartment building in Colombia. Yes, I just saw that. And they have more than one, sis. Yes, they have more than one building collapse because when you, that's what I mean for us here in Panama. We do have, Vinny Balboa, San Francisco, Costa del Este, Punta Pacifica, Punta Paitilla, even Bay Vista. We have probably some good building codes. And I think that's pretty much where all, not all, most of our friends, expats live. The other day I went to a gathering and this gentleman said, I'm in Caprilla, which is like outside the city. You get places like, San Carlos and Arajan, you have La Chorrera, and a lot of those places don't have high rises like we do. You go to Panama Pacifico, they have some buildings, but not as high. And probably their building codes are probably strong too. But we have, you go to like Cinco de Mayo, 24 de Diciembre, all those um I don't want to say average, but what people, the general population, they may not live in structures like ours, right? So those people are more at risk. And I think if you're like in a one-story home, it's not as bad. Yeah, you may have your roof crack or whatever, but if it falls on you, it's probably not gonna kill you. But when you're in a concrete building and it's, that's what when you get crushed. But we have a lot of buildings that um, are not up to the newer codes. And this is where you go. I can just, because I'm in those streets all the time. And I can visualize that, yes, those people would be, uh, because, by the time it happens and you can't run, yes, yes, it would be catastrophic. It would be. If we get a 7 point something here in Panama, it's going to be bad. So, and sometimes did you see the person in the middle of the street? He was on his knees just praying, and the shaking was going on. Yeah, you do whatever you know to do. I'm not there to judge anybody, but anyway. All right. I just wanted to come on because this person said, Maggie, you should do a video about your experience with the earthquake. My experience was I just wanted to put a bra on. That was my only concern. Because in an emergency, I cannot take the elevator. I'd have to say, oh, nope, can't push that button because you might get stuck in there. So you got to go 38th floor down. Mm-mm. We're staying like right here. And this sister said, I'm on the 42nd floor. I'm just going to go in my closet and just wait on God. 42 floors, where you going to go, sis? Mm-mm. Like I said, get yourself situated with your emergency plan. Make sure you go to the ATM, get some cash, because if something happens, the ATMs aren't going to work. The bank's going to be closed. Banks close for everything here anyway. So if you don't have any cash, I have plenty of beans and stuff, but they're not cooked. So I have to make sure I have canned food. I don't do canned, but I need to have enough, and crackers and stuff and water so you can survive for a few days at least. Right? And that's all you can do. That's all you can do. And one sister said, make sure you download an app, a um, earthquake app on your phone so that if there is one that you're aware. But like I said, our WhatsApp groups are so active, somebody's going to tell me. Yep. All right, ladies and gents, we are here. We are breathing. We are grateful. And our mayor came on here and he said he already contacted the mayors, el alcalde, or they call them, of Cali and some of these other towns. And I know he's going to start some collection spots. And let me tell you, when they open those, Panamanians, everybody brings loads of stuff. So we had so many things for Venezuela. They're like, okay, because the president's wife here is very involved in recovery and stuff like that. So she's like, oh, thank you. And we had multiple spots. They had to tell people to stop bringing stuff. That's how generous people are here. And then the country here sent a plane. They had a whole team of people who are experienced rescuers. with the sniffing dogs, and they went. And yes, I mean, I think the next day they were out there in Venezuela underground. So we're waiting for them to give us, and Reba Smith, which is one of the larger supermarket chains here. They always have collection at the stores, and people can just bring things. And me, I'm always thinking of the women and the young ladies. So it's like sanitary napkins and deodorant and stuff like that. That people, everybody's bringing water and stuff like that. Man, I'm like, what about toothpaste? Yeah, and then water. They always have extra water. And that gentleman who's the chef, he was on the ground really quickly with his mobile kitchen and food. They got that. So, yes. So I'm expecting that we're going to be doing the same thing because it could be our turn. Could be our turn. Yes. And that's what I said. When people are just walking around all puffed up, right? You got your millions, you got this, you got that. Remember Steve Jobs when he got sick? That man was a billionaire. I'm sure if there was a cure. Did you see him when he before he died was like this? So money and power, it's not that great when you are sick because sometimes there is nothing. Oh, they're showing this lady with the house shaking with her in it. So you just hope that people would have some sense and have that humility. But no, I mean, everybody's just crazy and acting the fool and just thinking that they own everything. And I'm like, whatever. I got to manage my own mental health because it's been rough lately. It's been rough. I have to tell you. Because I tell them, even though I'm the encourager, sometimes I need encouragement myself. I have to work on myself to keep myself from just not falling apart with all the stuff that is going on. Yep. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I think we can log off now. Let's say, oh, yeah. We've been talking over an hour. If there are any other questions, I don't know what else to do. I think we fared well, but we're just in a state of expectancy, not knowing what could happen, what might happen. And we can only prepare so much. We don't have anywhere to run to. No. All right. So we're here. Thank you, Gloria. Yes, we are here. We are okay. I don't know of anybody. None of my sisters got hurt. I don't know anyone whose building was hurt. We didn't lose power or anything like that. Nothing flickered. I told you I was like, ooh, the bed. No, yeah, yep. All right, ladies, you have a good night. If there is anything that happens unexpectedly, I certainly will come up and let you know. But we are good so far, and we are grateful. All right, don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. I would appreciate it. Thumbs up, por favor. Thank you so much. 49 and 34 thumbs up. We need to get the thumbs up to 49. Por favor. I know Greta said, I do it when I come on. But some people say, I can't find it. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Don't know what to tell you. I mean, I give you lots of information. I keep you updated. All I ask is that you just hit that little thumbs up. That's all. That's all. Yes. We have to have empathy for our neighbors. And Peru gets quite a bit of earthquake. And then the other day, Guatemala, that I went to Guatemala for Easter, where I was in Antigua, it was surrounded by volcanoes. And there is one Volcan de Fuego that is constantly spewing, a little bit of fire here and there. Well, I think it was last week they said it erupted. People had to be evacuated, and I was like, yeah. And then this guy had just done a video saying, "Oh, the 5 best places to retire, Guatemala." I'm like, no, not with all those earthquakes, not earthquake, not earthquakes, eruption, volcanic eruptions. Like, no. Panama, we have one dormant volcano, Volcan Baru, also in Chiriqui, close to Costa Rica. They said it has not erupted in decades. But with El Nino, don't assume it won't. Okay? Yes. We got to be ready for anything and not be surprised because everything is in a state of unsteadiness. It's like everything that didn't used to happen is happening now. So that's the thing. It's like, oh, okay. Don't be surprised. The fires that are just out of control. All Europe was on fire, a few weeks back in France, Italy, Spain. I had to call my friend who she's in Spain a few months and she's down here. And I'm like, where are you? Are you okay? She's like, oh, it's about an hour and a half from me. I was like, if it's not fire, it's the flood, it's the earthquake, it's the volcanoes, and yeah, Mother Nature is not happy. All righty. Good night, everyone. Thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Yep, we're up to the count. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, please do that for me. I would appreciate it. It helps. The world is not balanced. I don't know when it was ever balanced. Was it? It's just now everybody's loose right now. I just feel like everybody's loose. There are no barriers, no boundaries. Everything is just, yeah, that's what I see. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. Good night. Good night. God bless you. Bye on Facebook. Bye on YouTube. Good night. All right. Yes, yes, yes.